Hello, and welcome to a Financial Aid Introduction for Incoming BSN Students Summer 2026 Matriculation presentation. My name is Audrey Needfelt, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a Financial Aid Advisor in the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office at CU Anschutz. The goal of this recording is to help you better understand the basics of financial aid so that we can have a nice in-depth discussion during our live presentation later this week. This presentation has three key takeaways. Key takeaway number one is funding types of aid. Our goal with this is to help you understand the different categories of aid, where those aid funds come from, and the requirements to receive those different types of aid. Key takeaway number two is understanding the cost of attendance, or the COA. Our goal with this is that you will be able to define and understand the different components that make up the COA, and also understand how COA and financial aid offers interact with one another. Key takeaway number three is the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office Student Partnership. There are two main goals with this takeaway. The first is understanding how the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office at CU Anschutz, also referred to as FASO, works with students to tailor their aid to their needs. The secondary goal is understanding that FASO must operate within rules and regulations set in place by CU Anschutz, the state of Colorado, and the federal government regarding aid. These rules and regulations may have an impact on what we can offer. Financial aid offices use a lot of terminology that you may not be familiar with. So before we jump into the key takeaways for today's presentation, I wanted to provide some definitions of commonly used words or phrases. The financial aid offer is the amounts and types of aid available to a student during a given aid year. The amounts and types are determined by federal or state aid applications, which we will go over later, and must follow the rules and regulations regarding aid that I mentioned previously. At CU Anschutz, FASO sends out a detailed financial aid offer letter via email each aid year to students who have completed their aid application. The aid or award year is the time frame that aid is intended to fund education for a student. This may not align directly with your academic year that your program follows, so please be mindful when you're reviewing your financial aid offer to see what the aid or award year is. At CU Anschutz, we follow the fall, spring, summer semester aid or award year. The cost of attendance, or COA, is the estimated total that a student would reasonably need for the aid year in their program of study. COA includes costs payable to the school, such as tuition and academic or program fees. These are also referred to as direct or billable costs. The COA also includes costs payable to others, such as rent, food, transportation, personal expenses, healthcare, etc. These are also commonly referred to as indirect or non-billable costs. The COA is the maximum amount of aid that a student can accept for that given aid year. That includes all types of aid, such as scholarships, grants, loans, work study, etc. We will go more in depth into the cost of attendance later on. The Student Aid Index, or SAI, is a number that's used to determine how much need-based aid can be offered. It helps determine eligibility for federal, state, and institutional funding. The SAI number is received by an automatic calculation completed by the federal or state application for aid that a student fills out. Need-based aid is a category of aid that is awarded to students based on their financial situations. That financial situation can include factors such as income, personal assets, and family size. This information is gathered in the federal or state application for aid and helps determine the student's SAI. A student's financial need is determined by a calculation where we take the COA, or cost of attendance, and subtract the SAI, or student aid index. The resulting number is what the student's need is. The higher a student's SAI, the less need that they will have. For example, if a cost of attendance for a student is $15,000 and their SAI is $5,000, their need is calculated at $10,000. Disbursement, or disbursement of funds, is when aid is sent to the bursar's or billing office to be applied to the student's outstanding bill. This occurs at the start of each semester. If there is an overage after the bill has been paid, the aid will be issued to the student as a refund. That can be either direct deposit or paper check. This is also typically issued within the first week of classes, provided all requirements for aid are met. At CU Anschutz, you will receive a paper check by default for any refunds, but you can set up direct deposit with the bursar's office and have the funds automatically put into your bank account. Satisfactory academic progress, or SAP, is a process that schools must use to calculate and determine whether a student is successfully moving towards completion of their degree. This is a federal regulation set in place regarding financial aid and uses the following 3 measurements: grade point average, or GPA, course completion rate, and maximum time frame. We'll go more in depth into SAP in a little bit. A loan lender is the financial institution providing money to a borrower. A loan servicer is a company that the loan lender will work with to help manage the student loans. The loan servicer is the one responsible for administering the balance of the loan, the repayment options, and collecting payments once the student enters repayment. A loan origination or processing fee is a percentage of the loan principal that is charged by the lender to prepare and oversee the loan. This means that a percentage of the principal that you accept is held back by the loan lender and provided to the loan servicer to oversee the loan during its lifetime. Loan certification is a FASO process of verifying loan details and also the student's school records, including things such as enrollment. Loans can only be certified up to the COA of the semester and must consider all other aid that a student has. If a loan is subsidized, it means that the borrower is generally not responsible for paying interest while in school at least half time, during their grace period, or during any period of deferment. An unsubsidized loan, interest does accrue during periods of time when the payments are not required, and is also subject to capitalization, which is where the interest that has accrued since date of disbursement is added to the principal amount of the loan, and interest begins accruing on that new principal. Now that we have covered a lot of commonly used financial aid terminology, I also want to touch on the financial aid, or FA, basics before we jump into the key takeaways of today's presentation. What is financial aid and how do I get it? Financial aid is money to help pay for college. It must be used for education-related expenses and is not intended to cover other types of debt, such as credit cards or auto loans. To receive financial aid, a student generally must complete a free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, for each aid year. There may be additional requirements depending on the type of aid a student is offered. In order for a student to be eligible to complete the FAFSA, they must meet the following requirements. Number 1, they must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, as defined by the Department of Education, or ED. Number 2, they must be enrolled in a financially eligible program, as well as enrolled in a minimum of half-time credit hours, whatever that may be for the program, in order to receive aid. For these credits to be eligible, they must be a graduation requirement that pertains to the degree or program of study the student is engaged in. Number 3, they must not be in default on federal loans or owe any federal grant funds. Number 4, they must certify that they will use the federal student aid only for educational purposes. And 5, they must maintain satisfactory academic progress, or SAP, while in school. The FAFSA is an annual application that can be found and completed on studentaid.gov. Typically, this application will become available in October for the upcoming aid year, so that fall, spring, and summer. You want to ensure that you use the appropriate school code so it gets sent to the school that you will be attending. CU Anschutz shares our code with CU Denver, and it is 004508. We do encourage students to apply and complete the FAFSA, even if they feel they will only be eligible for loans, because a lot of scholarships require FAFSA information. Students who are ineligible for completion of the FAFSA and are Colorado residents with asset status should complete the Colorado Application for State Financial Aid, or CASFA. If you have questions about your residency status, please work directly with the registrar's office. The CASFA will help determine your eligibility for state grants and work study funds, and also provide important information for any need-based scholarships. Now that we are familiar with commonly used financial aid terminology and financial aid basics, we're going to jump into the key takeaway number 1, funding types. Funding types for financial aid are broken into 4 main categories: educational loans, grants, scholarships, and work study funds. Educational loans are a funding type that require repayment with interest. This is financial aid funds that can be borrowed from the federal government, the college or university you are attending, or private sources such as banks or credit unions. Current options for educational loans are the Federal Direct Loan Program and private loans. The first type of educational loans that we will take a look at is the Federal Direct Student Loan Program. The Federal Direct Student Loan Program allows eligible students or parents to borrow directly from the U.S. Department of Education. Currently, the loans on offer in the Federal Direct Student Loan Program include the Federal Direct Subsidized Loan, which is only for dependent undergraduate students, the Federal Direct Unsubsidized Loan, which is available for independent or dependent undergraduate students, and the Federal Direct Parent Plus Loan, which is only available for parents of dependent undergraduate students. The Federal Direct Student Loan Program has a lot of benefits. They are eligible for deferment, which is the temporary postponement of payment on a loan. If a federal direct loan enters deferment, a subsidized loan will remain interest-free, as it does while you are in school or in the grace period. Interest does accrue, however, on the unsubsidized and plus loans. There are certain requirements and conditions that must be met for a loan to be in deferment. However, the borrower's credit will remain in good standing during the deferment period. Federal direct loans are also eligible for forbearance. This is the ability to temporarily stop making monthly student loan payments or to make smaller monthly payments. During forbearance, all federal loans accumulate interest, including the direct subsidized loans. Borrower's credit does remain in good standing during this time as well. Federal direct student loans are eligible for forgiveness, cancellation, and discharge. These are all removal of the borrower's obligation to repay some or all of a loan. They do have different requirements and are used in different ways, so be sure that you are connecting with your loan servicer to discuss these options. Federal direct student loans have fixed interest rates that are set by the Department of Education. This means that regardless of your credit history, the interest will be the same on a federal student loan for you as it is for everyone else who takes out that loan. It also means that the interest percent will not change during the entire life of the loan from acceptance through repayment. ED sets new interest rates that start each July 1st and end the subsequent June 30th. This means that upon graduation or leaving CU Anschutz, you will likely have multiple different loans with multiple different fixed interest rates. Federal direct student loans also have fixed origination fees. Similar to the interest rate, ED sets new origination fees that start July 1st and end the following June 30th. These loans also have one-time 6-month grace periods per loan before repayment begins. That means that a student or a borrower is not required to pay towards their principal or interest for 6 months after graduation or dropping below half-time enrollment. Federal direct student loans require completion of online entrance counseling and a master promissory note, or MPN. Master implies that the MPN is valid for 10 years, provided the student stays at the same institution during that time. Both of these are completed at studentaid.gov, which is where you also submit your FAFSA. Before we move on from the Federal Direct Student Loan Program, I would like to touch on the updates that are coming as of July 1st, 2026 under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The information in this recording is up to date as of January 2026 and the most current guidance we have received. For more up-to-date information in case of changes and additional guidance from the Department of Education, please visit our Federal Loan Updates website by scanning this QR code below. Key highlights for the Federal Direct Student Loan Program updates include a change to the Direct Parent Plus loan. Previously, Direct Parent Plus loans only had a limit based on the cost of attendance for their student minus all other aid. Starting on July 1st, 2026, Direct Parent Plus loans will now have annual and aggregate or lifetime limits per dependent student. Repayment plans are also changing and will only include two options: the Standard Repayment Plan and Repayment Assistance Plan, or RAP. Both the federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans have annual limits and aggregate or lifetime limits based on the type of borrower the student is. For dependent students, the annual limit is $7,500. The aggregate or lifetime limit is $31,000. For independent students, the annual limit is $12,500, and the aggregate or lifetime limit is $57,500. For both dependent and independent students, a maximum of $5,500 in the annual limit can be in subsidized funds. The remainder would be in unsubsidized loans. The Federal Direct Parent Plus loan is available for eligible parents of dependent undergraduate students, and they are able to borrow federal loan funds directly from the Department of Education to help pay for their students' educational costs. There is now, as of July 1st, 2026, an annual limit, an aggregate or lifetime limit on the Parent Plus loan per dependent student. The annual limit is $20,000 per dependent student, and the aggregate limit is $65,000 per dependent student. If a parent borrows a Parent Plus loan for a student who is enrolled in their current program of study prior to July 1st, 2026, and the funds dispersed prior to July 1st, 2026, the parent will be eligible to continue borrowing under the current loan regulations for 3 academic years or the estimated completion date of the student's program, whichever is shorter. For the Federal Direct Parent Plus loan, the student eligibility requirements are the same as they are for the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Parent eligibility requirements for the Direct Parent Plus loan include that the parent must be the student's biological, adoptive, or step parent. They must be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen as determined by the Department of Education, must have a valid Social Security number, must not be in default on any federal student loans or owe any federal student grant funds, and must not have adverse credit history. Some examples of adverse credit history include bankruptcy, delinquent debt of 90 days or more, foreclosure, loan default, repossession, tax lien, wage garnishment, write-off of Title IV federal loan debt within preceding 5 years of the Parent Plus loan application. A unique type of educational loan available at CU Anschutz for nursing students is the institutional loan called Federal Nursing Loan. As the name suggests, the Federal Nursing Loan is funded by the federal government, but is offered by the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. The Federal Nursing Loan is subsidized for all levels of nursing students who are offered these funds. And eligibility requirements include, but are not limited to, the student meeting the federal student aid eligibility requirements, being enrolled a minimum of half-time in a baccalaureate or graduate nursing program and eligible credit hours that pertain to that program, as well as having need as determined by the FAFSA. While this is a wonderful loan opportunity and we strongly encourage students to utilize it, please keep in mind that funds for the federal nursing loan are extremely limited. It is highly likely that not every student who meets eligibility criteria will be offered this aid. Those that are offered will be notified by email and will be required to accept the loan in UCD Access, as well as complete all necessary loan paperwork with our servicer, ECSI Heartland. There will be a specified deadline included in the email to recipients, and if any of these items are not completed by the deadline, the federal nursing loan will be canceled. These can be offered throughout the semester, so please be sure that you are always monitoring your CU Anschutz email. That way you are most up to date with your financial aid offer and any changes that may happen. There's some key features about the federal nursing loan that I would like to go over. First, the federal nursing loan has a fixed interest rate of 5%. Keep in mind this loan is subsidized. The federal nursing loan also has a 9-month grace period. The 9-month grace period will begin after the student is no longer enrolled at least half time in eligible credits and an eligible nursing program at CU Anschutz. After this 9-month grace period, interest will begin accruing and repayment will begin as well. The federal nursing loan is eligible for federal loan consolidation as well as cancellation and deferral. The federal nursing loan may be eligible for forbearance or renegotiation. It also has a maximum repayment period of 10 years and a minimum monthly payment of $40. Now that we have covered the Federal Direct Student Loan Program and the coming changes under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, we will look more into private loans. First, we will look at the sources and the purpose of these private loans. A private loan is a loan that is non-federal funds offered by different lenders, such as banks, credit unions, state agencies, etc. Private loans are intended to fill the gap in a student's cost of attendance when their other aid doesn't fully cover their educational costs. Rates and terms of private loans are determined by the lender that is issuing the funds to the borrower. Interest rates and origination fees are determined by the lender as well as the creditworthiness of the borrower and, if applicable, their cosigner. Repayment terms may vary depending on the lender. Some do require repayment while the student is in school, and some offer the ability to release the cosigner if one was added to the loan after a time period of eligible on-time payments. Borrowing requirements for private educational loans include approved credit check for the borrower and, if applicable, the cosigner, that the student is enrolled at least half time in an eligible program, that there is certification of the loan funds by the university. Many of them do require students to be a U.S. citizen or have permanent resident status. There are some options available for international students, however. The lender may also request proof of income or employment from the student and the cosigner if applicable. A cosigner for a private student loan is usually a parent, guardian, or trusted adult that has a strong credit history and stable income. Cosigners can help students qualify for loans if their credit history or income is lower than preferred, and cosigners may also help students secure better interest rates. This is because having a cosigner on a loan lessens the risk of the loan not being repaid. The lower the risk, the lower the interest rate. We strongly encourage students to carefully consider whether or not they need a cosigner for their private student loan. If it is determined that you need a cosigner, we recommend asking a trusted individual that has a strong credit history and stable income, and you should ensure that the cosigner understands their responsibility. Cosigners are legally obligated to repay the loan if the borrower is not able to for any reason. And some lenders do offer the cosigner release options after a period of on-time payments are made, making them no longer legally obligated to repay the loan. The Financial Aid and Scholarships Office at CU Anschutz, or FASO, can certify private loan funds from any lender. We can only certify the funds up to the student's cost of attendance for the semester, minus all other aid that has been offered or received. CU as a whole, and FASO specifically, cannot endorse or recommend lenders to students. We do, however, have some tips on finding lenders and preparing to apply on our website. Please allow at least 1 month minimum for certification process and the right to cancel period for all private loans. Giving at least a month will ensure that we are able to complete our process, that you have the right to cancel period for your private loan, and that those funds will be received and dispersed to the bursar's office. When it comes to educational loans, we strongly encourage students to consider the following. Make sure that you understand the total borrowing cost over time of the loan that you will be taking out. That includes the principal, the origination fee, as well as the interest that will accrue. You are responsible for paying back each piece of this over the loan's lifetime. We also strongly encourage students to prioritize their federal student loan options first due to the benefits that the federal direct student loan program has. When and if you start considering private student loans, we strongly encourage comparing lenders for rates, fees, and repayment terms before you start applying, and also start thinking about a cosigner if you think that you may need one. The next funding type that we will take a look at are grants. Grants are a funding type that is for students with need. Grants can be provided by federal governments, state entities, or the institution at which you are attending. The need is determined, as usual, by the FAFSA or CASFA information. Generally speaking, these funds do not need to be repaid. However, there may be some instances in which you will be required to repay, especially federal grants. To be eligible, students must meet specific eligibility requirements, which differ depending on the grant type. Most grants require students to be enrolled a minimum of half-time, but some do differ. Grants are limited in funding, so our office awards them to students on a first-come, first-served basis to those who have the highest need, so please be sure to submit your FAFSA or CASFA for the upcoming aid year as early as possible. We do reviews annually and award or re-award as possible, so be sure to monitor your CU Anschutz email account for financial aid offer updates throughout the semester. The next funding type that we will talk about are scholarships. Scholarships generally require applications in order for a student to receive them and come from two broad sources. There are those that we consider internal scholarships, which come from the College of Nursing or CU Anschutz directly, and those that are considered external scholarships, which is a scholarship from any non-CU Anschutz entity. Criteria to be eligible for these scholarships, as well as dates and times and deadlines, are determined by the funding source or the donor, so they will likely vary greatly. Scholarships typically do not require repayment or service from the student in order to receive it. The award amounts definitely vary, but all amounts can help. If you spend 1 hour on a scholarship application and you receive a $50 scholarship, you just made $50 for an hour's worth of work. As previously mentioned, FASO can process scholarship funds from any source, so we encourage you to think broadly. Not only should you look past the program of study that you are in, you should also look at things that make you unique and consider unique scholarship donor possibilities as well. That could be anything from a place of worship, to your parents' place of employment, to your high school, even if it's been a while since you graduated high school, to King Soopers. We have a lot of resources on our website to help you look for some external scholarships. We do also encourage students to save all of their search criteria, both that work and don't work, and also to save and reuse any documents possible, such as a personal statement. The last funding type that we will talk about is work study. This is an earn as you work program. Work study funds can come from the federal government or the state government. It requires part-time employment wherein the student earns money to help cover their educational expenses. Typically, these are provided in a bi-weekly paycheck. Work study at CU Anschutz is not automatically offered. It requires the student to complete the work study authorization form to express their desire to use work study funds and to ensure that they are eligible for work study. You can find the work study authorization form on our website. Work study also requires that a student be enrolled a minimum of half-time, and they must also continue to maintain SAP standards. That covers key takeaway number 1, funding types. We will now jump into key takeaway number 2, cost of attendance, or COA. The cost of attendance is the best estimate of reasonable costs associated with your program. These costs are determined by CU Anschutz, your academic program, and the Colorado Department of Higher Education. Once we put all of this together, it determines the cost of attendance for each semester within an aid year. Cost of attendance is made up of 2 distinct categories. The first is called costs payable to the school, although you may hear it referred to as billable costs or direct costs. These are any costs that are paid directly to the college or university. It can include anything from tuition to academic and program fees to other expenses that are paid directly to the school for enrollment. The second category of cost of attendance is called costs paid to others. This may also be referred to as unbillable costs or indirect costs. These are any expenses that are associated with the student receiving their education. It does not include anything paid directly to the college or university, so it is anything paid to a third-party entity. This can include things such as books, supplies, health insurance, living expenses, transportation, and many other things. Within the cost of attendance, under the costs paid to others are different types of allowances. These allowances are the maximum amount that a student can be reasonably expected to spend in any given type. The first one that we will talk about is the living allowance. Living allowances are adjusted each aid year and set by the Colorado Department of Higher Education. For the current 2025 to 2026 aid year, students are allotted roughly $2,800 a month for living allowance. This includes funding for food, for groceries and dining out, car-related expenses, insurance, maintenance, fuel, anything else related to cars, aside from purchasing one, personal hygiene, recreation, housing, and non-monthly or irregular expenses. What we recommend with these non-monthly or irregular expenses is that you budget the monthly equivalent and reserve that in savings. For example, if you do that with your car registration, you will have enough saved up to cover the full cost of your car registration annually when it comes due. Living allowance funds are issued as a refund at the beginning of the semester through the bursar's office after disbursement. This means that you will receive the total living allowance funds for the semester, typically the first week of class. We recommend putting that lump sum into a high yield savings account to ensure that you are accruing good interest, and then schedule your monthly expenses to transfer over to a checking account each month, almost as if you were getting a paycheck. To minimize debt, we strongly encourage you to carefully consider the amount that you need for living expenses. Think about any costs that you can cut, such as rent or mortgage if you do not cover that, insurance if you are on a spouse or parents plan, anything like that. It is your responsibility to budget and to make sure that you are actively using what you need and not borrowing just because it's there. Remember, when it comes to educational loans, you are responsible for repaying the principal, interest, and origination fee once you're done. Cost of attendance information can be found in 3 different spots. Each aid year, our office will upload estimated costs of attendance onto our website for every program. This information can also be found in UCD Access, and we do also include your estimated cost of attendance in your financial aid offer letter. We strongly encourage holding on to those financial aid offer letters no matter when you receive them, just so that you have them for reference. The estimated cost of attendance is set for every student, and we separate them by resident cost of attendance and non-resident cost of attendance. This is regardless of your circumstances. However, there are some circumstances that may qualify for an increase in your cost of attendance. Examples of these circumstances can include childcare, educational computer and technology purchases, and unusual health costs. Do keep in mind that these funds are typically covered by additional loans rather than other types of aid. If there is something that you are experiencing and you wish to discuss your options, we encourage you to reach out to FASO to discuss what's happening and what we may be able to do to support you. Your initial financial aid offer will include all funds from grants and federal student loans that you are eligible for. We will also include information about the Parent Plus loan amount that you may be eligible for if you are a dependent student. Aids such as scholarships, private or alternative loans, and work study are added as applicable throughout the semester. Any time that an adjustment is made to your financial aid offer, whether a new aid has been applied to your offer or you have requested a loan reduction, we will send a new offer letter email to you. So please be sure that you monitor your CU Anschutz email throughout the semester for updates from our office. Keep in mind that any federal direct student loans that you intend to utilize must be accepted by you in UCD Access. The Parent Plus loans, however, do not require active acceptance by the student in UCD Access. When your parent completes the Parent Plus application on studentaid.gov, this indicates acceptance of the loan for the amount requested and will be dispersed when funds are received, as well as after the parent has completed the entrance counseling and master promissory note of the loan on studentaid.gov. An important federal regulation regarding financial aid and your cost of attendance is that your total aid offer can never exceed your cost of attendance for the term in question. That total aid offer includes every single type of aid that you have been offered or received. Educational loans, both federal and private, work study funds, grants, scholarships, employee assistance, tuition benefits, etc. If at any time your financial aid offer exceeds your cost of attendance, we are legally obligated to reduce your least desirable aid first. Typically, that means we will be reducing the principal of your loan with the highest interest rate, but it does mean that we may have to reduce other types of aid as well, depending on how over the cost of attendance it is. The good news is that if your loan is lowered or reduced through our office, the interest and origination fees on the amount that is reduced will be waived. Keep in mind that this can result in you having to repay funds to the university, especially if you received a refund. On that note, please be sure to monitor your email, your UCD Access to-do list, and your student account with the bursar's office throughout the semester. Even if your bill is covered at the beginning of the semester through financial aid disbursement, please do not assume that your bill remains a $0 balance throughout the semester. Outstanding bills are subject to late fees and service charges, so be sure that you are monitoring that so that you are aware if you do owe any money for any reason. The third and final key takeaway of this presentation is the partnership between the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office and you as the student. A big part of the FASO and student relationship requires students to be aware of their responsibilities surrounding their aid offers. We'll start with those responsibilities that are before accepting your aid. You want to make sure that you review your monthly expenses and build a budget. You can do this by reviewing previous month's spending and seeing where you can cut down on expenses. Again, we encourage you to only take out the aid that you need and to use our budgeting worksheets on our website for help. There are also a lot of good budgeting apps out there that are free to use, so feel free to utilize those if that works better for you. You should also review the offer letter carefully before accepting aid, because any time that you accept aid, it implies that you understand the terms and conditions of receiving and keeping that aid. While building your budget and before accepting aid, we encourage you to consider any other financial support that may be available to you. This includes, as I mentioned, whether you are not responsible for rent or mortgage for where you are living, if you are on another individual's health insurance plan or a cell phone plan, or if you can reduce the expenses related to food due to family support. This is going to help you reduce your overall borrowing as much as possible, therefore reducing how much you owe in the future and have to pay back. Be sure that you also review the distribution of aid. As I discussed, fall and spring are offered together with the funds split evenly between the 2 semesters. Summer aid will be offered separately as applicable and will be notated in UCD Access with SU or SUM in the title. Student responsibilities after accepting their aid include completing outstanding loan requirements. For those federal student loans, that means the entrance counseling and the master promissory note on studentaid.gov. We also request that you monitor your email and your bill or your student account regularly for updates. Avoid late in service fees by not assuming that aid was automatically paid out. We will notify you via email and your UCD Access to-do list if there are any outstanding requirements for your aid, so please be sure to check those and follow up as soon as possible to avoid a delayed disbursement of funds. Student responsibilities regarding keeping their aid include maintaining SAP requirements. Please monitor your email and your student account for any notification of SAP requirements not being met. Our office will send out a notification in the student's SAP warning semester, wherein they will still be eligible for financial aid, but must meet their SAP requirements in all future semesters to continue receiving aid, or their SAP suspension semester in which they are no longer eligible for financial aid. We do offer SAP appeals, wherein a student on suspension can submit documentation and paperwork and a request to continue receiving aid. If approved, we will notify the student and they will receive aid for that semester. If not approved, unfortunately, it does mean that the student is ineligible for aid in that semester. Please also be aware of how withdrawing can impact your aid. Our office is legally obligated to complete a calculation called Return to Title IV, or R2T4. This is a calculation that determines how much Title IV, which is federal and state aid, was earned by the student and how much must be returned. This could result in a bill with the bursar's office for you to return aid funds, depending on what the calculation reveals. We completely understand how overwhelming financial aid can be because there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of things to keep track of. That is why we are here to help support you and all other students at the AMC campus. Our office offers many different types of support, which includes presentations for each program. We will host a presentation on or around orientation at the beginning of your program. We will also offer presentations around borrowing wisely and financial wellness sporadically throughout your program. And then at the end of the program, prior to graduation, we will host a loan repayment session. We also partner with outside agencies to host financial literacy sessions on campus that are typically lunch and learns. So not only do you get financial literacy tips and tricks and guidance, you also could get a free lunch, which will help with your budget. Our office can also offer individual advising support with students via walk-ins, Zoom, telephone, and email communications. This is where a student can meet or otherwise communicate with an advisor to discuss their unique situation. During this time, an advisor will answer questions and provide clarifying information about financial aid, as well as discuss the benefits of the financial aid options available to the student. We will also share tips on budgeting and maintaining aid eligibility. So please reach out to us anytime that you have a question, even if it's covered in this presentation or other documents. We would much rather you understand correctly how financial aid works than take a guess and be incorrect and end up having to owe more money than you should. While that covers all of our key takeaways, as well as financial aid terminology and financial aid basics, there are a few more things that I want to touch on before we go. It would be difficult to consider this a true college experience if you did not walk away from today's presentation with a little bit of homework. Please be sure that you complete the following items prior to your transition to CU Anschutz. Complete or update, if you have already completed, the 2025-2026 FAFSA or CASFA. Keep in mind the 25-26 FAFSA and CASFA cannot be completed or updated after June 30th, 2026. If we do not have your 2025-2026 FAFSA or CASFA prior to June 30th, 2026, we will not be able to offer you aid for the summer 2026 semester. You should also complete the 2026-2027 FAFSA or CASFA. When completing or updated the FAFSAs or CASFAs, be sure that you include the CU Denver Anschutz shared code and indicate that your grade level will be other undergraduate, junior year and beyond. Be sure that you also review the welcome packet that came with the email you received that linked to this video or available on our website. And as we always recommend, please be sure to monitor your CU Anschutz email and UCD Access to-do list regularly for any updates or any outstanding requirements from our office. Incomplete FAFSAs or CASFAs and any to-do list items that have not been completed can not only delay financial aid offers from being completed, but can also prevent disbursement of funds. And if you have an outstanding bill, you may be subject to late fees and service charges through the bursar's office. Lastly, I would like to provide you with some additional resources and offices that FASO works closely with. For any student billing account questions, payment plans, third-party payments, late fees and service charges, or anything else regarding your bill or refunds, you will want to connect with the bursar's office. Anything related to student records, FERPA and FERPA releases, enrollment verification, residency, or the College Opportunity Fund will go through the registrar's office. If you have any questions regarding the Student Health Insurance Plan, CU SHIP, or submitting a waiver to waive out of CU SHIP, you will want to connect directly with the Student Health Insurance Office. For questions regarding utilizing veterans or military benefits, please work directly with the Veteran and Military Student Services Office, or VMSS. The Student Outreach and Support Office provides support for students' safety, health, and well-being during their time at CU Anschutz. The Student Outreach and Support Office also houses the care team, includes case management, and also assists students with their medical leave of absences, or MLOAs. You can reach out to them with any questions you may have about their services, or if you were looking for a little bit of extra support. Thank you for watching this video from the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office at CU Anschutz. I hope that it has provided you with a solid foundation to help prepare you for your time here at CU Anschutz in your program. This slide contains contact information as well as our location, and also includes a link to our website, which not only has a lot of great information to help dive deeper into what we've covered today, as well as some FAQs and how-to guides, but also includes our current up-to-date advising hours and operations. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.